Hello, thank you very much for sending me your most recent recordings of your pieces. They're coming along really, really nicely. Just a few suggestions to kind of help push them even further forward. The first suggestion, I wrote it down for Clown and the Ballerina, but I think this one applies a bit to Rain as well. Not as much, because you know Rain far more sort of thoroughly. But I would practice what I'm about to suggest to you for both Rain and Clown and the Ballerina. And that is to do with getting the sections to flow together, because there are not nearly as many as there were, but there are still a few points where it sounds like you're hesitating. You're sort of pausing to kind of think about what comes next, which of course when you're reading music you have to do. But the way to sort of get around that, when you're sort of working at something that you obviously can't sight read yet, is to sort of just practice in sections, but make sure those sections overlap. So what I would suggest you do with, say, Clown and the Ballerina, first of all, is divide the music up into short sections. I would do it by lines, to be honest, in Clown and Ballerina, because it fits quite nicely into sort of chunks based on how it's laid out on the page. And practice going through the piece, but go through each pair of lines 2 or 3 times. So, for example, start off by practicing line 1 and then line 2, and then do that, say, 3 times, just so that you've got 3 practices of going from line 1 to line 2. But then practice not going from line 3 to 4, but from line 2 to line 3, so that you get a few practices of going from line 2 to line 3, then 3 to 4, etc. Of course, you don't have to do the whole lot in one sitting. In fact, I wouldn't. I would concentrate on maybe just one page in one practice session and then another page in the other practice session. But of course, making sure that you remember to practice the end of page 1 going into the beginning of page 2. So it's really just a more question of practicing joining the sections. That's the main thing that needs. I barely read my own writing. So yeah, that will help with the hesitation. I put, oh, there we are, excellent P in the Ballerina bit. What a sentence. As in really, really good dynamic contrast. It's really, really elegant, really delicate in the Ballerina bit, which, as it's about a ballerina, you'd expect it to be. So really well done. And generally speaking, the balance is really, really good, especially in the left hand. You're keeping those broken chords really, really soft and really lovely. With the right hand though, and this is especially true of those bars where the right hand is barely doing anything. I think there's a couple of bars towards the end of the first page, beginning of the second, where the right hand just plays one note per bar. You can afford to be a little, and I think you want to be a little bit more assertive on those notes, partly to make them last longer, but also just to make them stand out. They're in such weak parts of the piano because they're such high notes that there's little risk you're going to overdo them. So how I would do that, I'm just going to give you a quick demo of the technique now. Where I actually can't remember what the notes are to this at all. I haven't got my copy with me. But the technique is essentially like this. As you're doing, keep the chord hand really sort of, almost a bit flatter, still with nice curved fingers, really close to the key, and with the note that you want to project, just gently drop into it. And you can get those notes to stand out a little bit more if they're played with the same kind of hand position, the same sort of attack as the quiet left hand chords. They might sound a bit too weak. So it's just a little bit too, whereas. And if you I can't zoom in unfortunately, if you look at how I'm attacking the key for those projected ones, my finger is almost perpendicular to the key. My hand obviously is, and that would be a bit crazy, but the finger is going right down into the key, whereas for a softer kind of more muffled sound, you sort of want to play more on the pad of the finger. But for an assertive, kind of little brilliant shining star of a note, kind of attack more directly. That's just a little detail I would have a look at there. On to Rain, really good shaping at the start. Which bar is it? I think it's bar 4, 5, bar 7, where we have this bit. we have those 3 consecutive chords there. They sound a little bit too detached. If you're not already, use the fingering there. So 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 3 and 5, because that run of 3 chords all next to each other, you can get that really nicely legato. It just sounds really, really, really nice. Again, what I was saying about the flow in Clown and the Ballerina, I would do a little bit of practice like that on Rain. However, on Rain, I wouldn't do it from line to line because it doesn't fit neatly. The sections, I don't think, fit neatly from line to line. I would say the best way to carve Rain up is in chunks of 4 bars. Oh, actually, that's why Clown and the Ballerina works so well line to line, because each line is 4 bars, isn't it? Whereas in the Clown and the Rain, I think each line is about 6 bars. So that the music is still kind of carved up into chunks of 4 bars, but you have kind of 1.5 chunks per line then. So yeah, carve it up into sections of 4 bars and practice first 4 bars into second 4 bars, then second 4 bars into third 4 bars, then if you see what I mean. So you're kind of going from brick to brick, but practicing each overlap along the way. That will get the whole thing flowing much more nicely, guarantee it. Final kind of tweak to suggest with Rain, this isn't as essential, but it will just kind of make it that bit more kind of polished. In the second half, where the melody goes to the left hand, you want to kind of almost do the opposite of what I was just demonstrating with the Clown and the Ballerina. You want to kind of bring out that left hand a little bit more, because that's where the melody is. So you can afford a little bit more kind of a direct attack on those left hand notes. Notice my wrist. I'm sort of playing, much more straight down into the key, and so on. Sunrise on the Matterhorn, good. Just a few basic suggestions with this one. Couple of little bits to tidy up. That second to last line, it's better, but that still sounds like the weak spot. That's still a bit fragile. I would just pick that line out, do a ton of practice on it, just to really kind of beat it into submission. You tell that line who's boss. And remember the sort of step dynamics there. It's not a Egyptian pyramid where the dynamics are gradually kind of going up. It's more of a sort of Aztec step pyramid. One dynamic, next dynamic, next dynamic, next dynamic. Yay, pyramids. Bar, fourth line down, first bar. First bar of the last line of the first page, if that makes any sense. Well, we've got that. But that F sharp major chord there, you're playing all the right notes, just watch the rhythm because you're playing them all the same length. It's quaver, crotchet, like that. Just careful with the rhythm there. And final suggestion with Sunrise on the Matterhorn. I would, now that you've kind of almost got the whole thing really good, I would just try and get this a tad faster. Not breakneck speed at all, but just a little bit more. Would be kind of good. Just a little bit more flow. It doesn't necessarily have to be that fast, but just a smidgen faster, just to give it. It doesn't want to sound kind of stressed or rushed or anything at all. But I think just a little bit more. The tempo's notched up a little bit. It will just give it a much nicer kind of flow, I suppose. Yes, that's the key word from today's video. It's about the flow. It's kind of, connecting the sections really nicely and just making it. So you always want to make these pieces sound effortless, and of course I know they're not. Loads of work goes into learning this kind of stuff, and you've done that, which is really good. But with the repertoire that you've picked, it's all very kind of relaxing and apart from that middle bit of Clowns, which is obviously meant to sound really goofy. But your whole kind of performance set here is it's all very kind of chill, very relaxed. So in the interests of kind of conveying the main kind of emotions and sort of moods that the piece is convey, and getting the flow, getting that kind of, you know, easy feeling transition from one section to the other is really, really, really important. But, you know, more so than if you were doing something that was very jagged and very kind of da 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 da. You know, that you can afford a few sort of pregnant pauses there. But, you know, the repertoire that you're playing is just, it's kind of, yeah, just meant to sort of flow over the listener. But that, you know, that presents an extra challenge to the performer, because the listener can relax and get into it, but the performer's got to work really hard to kind of get it flowing. So do it really, really well. Hope these suggestions are of some use. And again, I'm very, very sorry we couldn't have our usual lesson this week, but normal service will resume next week, and I look forward to seeing you. So have a lovely, lovely weekend. Enjoy the sunshine. It appears to be out here in Ashvale. Hopefully it is where you are as well. And I'll see you soon. Bye for now.